How are you feeling today? Have you ever felt that there is a part of you controlling every decision you make, yet you don't even know what it is? You're strong. You try to look fine, but why are you still so easily hurt? Why are you still so easily manipulated? Why do you still fall into relationships or situations that make you ask yourself, why am I like this? Why can't I break free? There are men who spend their entire lives chasing success, love, power, but then one day they realize they have never truly been free. They were only being led by a piece of darkness inside themselves. The scariest thing isn't that there is darkness within you. The terrifying part is that you don't know what kind of darkness is ruling you. You think you're strong? Or are you just addicted to praise? You think you're self-controlled? Or are you just hiding your fear of being looked down on? You think you're cold? Or have you shut down your emotions for so long that you can't even remember the last time you truly felt anything? And then you ask yourself, why do others so easily control me? Why do I keep repeating the same mistakes? Why do I always feel like something is missing? Something I can't name? There are 3 types of darkness silently operating in the minds of men. 3 types that make them manipulated, abandoned, forgotten, without them even realizing it. And only those brave enough to look directly at them can truly conquer themselves. Are you ready? Because what I'm about to say might awaken you or make you never look at yourself the same way again. What most men never dare to admit is that they are not as strong as they think they are. They think they are decisive, but in reality they are only reacting by instinct. They think they are in control of their lives, but in reality they are being led by unconscious psychology. They believe they live for their goals, but most of the time they live for wounds that have never been named. And here's the harshest truth. Most men are not defeated by others. They are defeated by the dark part within themselves, the part they have never faced directly. The 3 types of darkness, narcissist, Machiavellian, psychopath, are not unfamiliar terms. They are 3 survival mechanisms the male mind uses when he is hurt, when he is weak, and when he is pushed into a corner. But they mistake them for personality. They do not realize. The one addicted to praise always believes he is confident. The one who loves control always thinks he is wise. The ruthless one always believes he is strong. And this very confusion turns them into perfect prey for manipulation, failure, and loneliness. Look around you. How many men are living like actors, performing strength because they are too afraid of being seen as weak? How many are repeating the same mistakes in love, career, and family without ever understanding why? How many are trying to be admired, yet unintentionally losing themselves? The truth they don't want to touch is this: the darkness within them is not what destroys them. The denial of the darkness is what kills them from the inside. Because when you don't know what is controlling you, you cannot break free from it. You only repeat the same old spirals until life teaches you with the most painful price. And that is why so many men keep being used, disrespected, and abandoned. Not because they are incapable, but because they are blind to their own minds. But when the truth is revealed, when you look directly at the dark part that is controlling you, a new door opens, the door of mastery. Hey, there is a truth that, if we don't say it out loud, we will keep blaming ourselves or blaming others our whole lives without ever understanding what is actually happening. Behind those 3 dark personality types is not cruelty. Truly, it isn't. It begins with old wounds, wounds the person carrying them doesn't even dare to look at. The narcissist is not born craving admiration. In fact, deep beneath that layer of confidence is a fear of being abandoned. Some memory from long ago made them feel they were never good enough. So they spend their whole lives asking for the feeling of being loved through the eyes of others. They don't try to appear special to boast. They do it to fill the emptiness that has never been healed. The Machiavellian is different. They are not cold because it is their nature. They are cold because they were once betrayed, because they trusted the wrong people, because they loved in the wrong place. So they learned to observe everything carefully. They don't dare trust anyone first. They only trust what they can control. For them, strategy is not a game. It is armor, so they won't be hurt ever again. And the psychopath, many people fear them. But few understand that these individuals often grow up in environments where emotions gradually shut down as a means of survival. When a child suffers too much pain and no one helps them, the nervous system sometimes has to shut off parts of feeling so that person can keep living. They are not emotionless to be cruel. They are emotionless because it is the last way to avoid collapsing. The saddest part is this: none of these three personality types knows they are reacting instead of truly living. They think it is a strong personality, but most of it is just a defense mechanism, something they developed to survive, not to grow. And if you pay a little attention, you might see a part of yourself in them. The moments you want to prove yourself at all costs. The moments you don't dare trust anyone. The moments you feel empty, even though you look perfectly fine on the outside. You are not broken. You are simply carrying things that have not yet been healed. When you understand this, you stop hating yourself. You begin to see the child inside you, once hurt, once lonely, once forced to be strong too soon. And from that moment, you finally begin to understand yourself. You know, there are things within us that happen so quietly we never notice them, not because we are weak or inadequate, but because pain has a very silent way of operating. So silent that it becomes part of our personality before we even understand what has happened. Pain does not knock on your door. It does not shout. It just gently touches you, then stays, and starts shaping the way you respond to the world. There are people who spend their entire lives longing to be acknowledged, to be seen, to be valued. Their mind has once experienced being ignored and being belittled more times than they could bear. So from within, a small voice appears. If I don't make people notice me, I will disappear again. And they start striving, performing, shining, not because they love the spotlight, but because deep inside, they fear the darkness swallowing them once more. Others are different. They once trusted, once opened their heart, once placed someone in an important place, and were betrayed. And from that moment, their brain learned a new rule for living. Don't trust anyone too soon. Watch what they do before listening to what they say. They become sharp, quick, cunning, not to hurt anyone, but to protect themselves from a pain they never want to repeat. And then there are those who look strong, look cold, and look unshakable. The truth is, they are often the ones who have been hurt so deeply that their emotions shut down like a switch. Not because they are heartless, but because their heart once broke so badly, it had to temporarily close its doors to survive. They act faster than others, more decisively, more boldly. But all those reactions are just the mind saying, I cannot take one more wound. When you look deep enough, you'll see a very human truth. No one is born wanting to become their own dark version. Everyone is just reacting to pain. They haven't had the chance to heal. Pain doesn't make you bad. It only makes you overly alert. It doesn't make you weak. It only makes you defensive at all times. It doesn't make you cold. It only makes you afraid to feel anything that could hurt you again. And once you understand this, you will begin to see clearly. There are moments when you are not truly choosing, you are only reacting. It's not that you want it that way, it's that the pain wants it that way. Realizing this is the first step for you to break free from emotional spirals that feel like they will never end. You know what the strangest thing is? People don't collapse because of real pain. They collapse because of the illusions they've held on to for so long that they start believing those illusions are the only truth. The illusion that they are stronger than they think. The illusion that others will appreciate them for what they do. The illusion that if they just try hard enough, everything will eventually turn out fine. But every illusion is a fogged layer of glass. It makes you see life in colors that aren't real, and one day, when that glass cracks, you see everything become cold, blunt, and real enough to hurt. There is an illusion that traps many people. If I am kind enough, they won't leave me. It sounds gentle, but it is entirely untrue. Kindness cannot keep anyone. It only makes you a temporary safe place. And when they've absorbed enough comfort, they will leave to find somewhere new, somewhere that serves their needs better. Not because you aren't good enough, but because they were never there for you. Another illusion is sharper than a blade. If I love them enough, they will change. No, people only change when they are forced to change for themselves. Not for you, not for love, not for promises. The more you try, the more exhausted you become. And the ironic part is, while you are draining yourself, they don't even notice. But the most dangerous illusion lies inside you. You think you are controlling your life. In reality, many times, you are simply reacting to old wounds. The decisions you believe are rational are actually born from the fear of being abandoned. The boundaries you believe are principles are really fences you built to avoid being hurt again. We still believe we are free, but the truth is we are guided by more unconscious forces than we realize. And do you know what makes illusions so dangerous? They are beautiful. They are safe. They make you believe you're fine, that nothing is wrong, until everything collapses. Just one moment, one criticism, one breakup, one small failure is enough to crack the shell, and you realize you are far more fragile than the strong image you built for yourself. But here lies the paradox. Only when illusions break can truth enter. And even though that moment truly hurts, it is also the rare moment when you see yourself most clearly. No more psychological makeup, no more familiar roles, just you, bare, facing yourself. From there, something interesting begins to happen. You no longer see the world through a cracked mirror. You start seeing deeper, wider, and more accurately. You begin to see the nature of people, of relationships, and of yourself, as if someone just pulled you out of a dark room, and the light, though harsh, lets you see everything so clearly that you can never go back to how you were before. Are you ready to step into that clarity? You know what's strange? When illusions break, people often think they are losing everything, but sometimes that is exactly the moment when you are being returned to yourself. There are truths we only see when we are tired enough, hurt enough, broken enough, because humans only truly look deep when they no longer have anything left to hold on to. When you stand in the ruins of your old beliefs, you realize something you had never understood before. The world is not against you. Life is simply trying to pull you away from a version you no longer belong to, like holding tightly to a locked door, pounding on it again and again to force it open, while right behind you, another door is wide open, brighter, wider, and more fitting for who you are. You just haven't been brave enough to turn around. From a higher perspective, you begin to understand that not everyone who leaves is a loss. Not everyone who stays is a gift. Not every compliment is worth keeping. And not every wound is something to fear. Some people appear only to teach you a lesson no school could ever teach. Some failures exist only to tear away the old skin you've worn for too long. Some pain arises only to remind you that you deserve more than what you've settled for. When you lift your head a little, you will see this. We are not the roles we play, not the masks we wear, not the expectations others place on our shoulders. We are currents, not stationary, not fixed, not confined, and the wounds are simply markers showing where you tried to live too far from your true nature. What makes this perspective so liberating is this. You realize you don't need to defeat anyone. You only need to stop losing to yourself. When you look at everything from a higher vantage point, you no longer ask, why did they treat me like that? Instead, you ask, why did I allow it to continue? You no longer ask, why didn't they appreciate me? Instead, you ask, why did I appreciate the wrong people? You no longer ask, why does this hurt? Instead, you ask, what is this pain trying to show me? That is the moment you are no longer just living, you are awakening. And then you look down at your journey, like looking at a maze from above. Instead of seeing dead ends, you see pathways. Instead of seeing failure, you see turns. Instead of seeing chaos, you see structure. Everything that once terrified you suddenly becomes something you can observe, no longer something that consumes you, as if you have stepped into another level of mind, clearer, calmer, and stronger. Can you feel that shift? That sensation of standing just a little higher and everything finally beginning to make sense. You know, there is a moment almost everyone goes through, but few ever recognize. It is the moment when you no longer want to run away from the darkness, but finally want to understand it. Transformation does not begin when you become strong. It begins when you admit you are tired. Tired of playing roles, tired of proving yourself, tired of trying to become what others expect of you. Transformation begins when you stop. In that stillness, you hear things that the noise outside once drowned out. Old fears, wounds that have been silent for too long, desires you buried because you were afraid of being judged. You begin to ask yourself, who have I been living for? Why did I place control of my emotions in someone else's hands? What truly belongs to me? And then a gentle clarity appears, not loud, not glamorous. It's simply a long exhale, as if your soul finally has the space to open its eyes. Transformation does not arrive in a single, I understand now moment. It comes slowly. Today, you realize one small thing. Tomorrow, you dare to be a little more honest. And one day, you look back and realize you are no longer who you used to be. You begin to observe instead of react. You begin to question instead of blame. You begin to listen to yourself instead of chasing applause. And the miracle is, when you dare to pause and look inside, the shadow that once scared you turns out to be just a part of you waiting to be understood. On this journey, the first thing you learn is honesty with yourself. Not the kind of honesty that makes you feel guilty, but the kind that liberates you. The kind of honesty that allows you to say, I was wrong, I was afraid, I let others define my worth for too long. And then, something very gentle happens. You forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for loving the wrong person. Forgive yourself for trying too hard. Forgive yourself for forcing yourself to live by the world's expectations. Forgiveness is not to erase the past, but to return you to the present. Then comes the moment you realize you have a choice you once believed you didn't deserve. The right to live autonomously, not needing to be seen to feel valuable, not needing to be loved to feel enough, not needing to win to feel strong. True transformation happens when you understand this. You do not need to become someone else to be worthy of your own acceptance. From that moment on, the darkness is no longer an enemy. It becomes a guide, and you step from chaos into light, not with an explosion, but with one small, steady, deeply real step. Do you feel it? That sensation of standing on the first stair of a new journey, a journey where, for the first time, you are the one holding your own hand. There is something strange about the journey of growing up. We spend half our lives trying to become someone, and the other half trying to find our way back to ourselves. Have you ever felt that way? That there is a very old, very pure version of you, sitting somewhere inside your mind, watching you run around trying to prove so many things, and gently asking, when will you come back? When the mask falls, when the illusions of strength begin to dissolve, when you stop using control to hide your fear, a new space opens inside you, and it is so quiet it surprises you. It is the silence of a soul that no longer has to perform, no longer has to tense up, no longer has to beg the world to acknowledge it. In that silence, a question appears. Who am I when I'm no longer acting a role? And the moment you dare to ask that question, the journey home begins. Returning to yourself is not about finding a perfect version. On the contrary, it is the slow process of opening the doors within. A door that holds pain, a door that holds innocence, a door that holds the dreams you once lost, and a door that holds the strongest part of you, the part you forgot you ever had. This is a journey of acceptance. Acceptance that you were once wrong. Acceptance that you once let the darkness lead you. Acceptance that there were moments you were weaker than you thought. But also acceptance that, beneath all that chaos, there has always been a bright core, very still, very peaceful, and never gone. You don't have to find it. You only have to remember it. And then one day, you realize you no longer try to be special. You just want to be real. You no longer want to win over anyone. You only want to conquer the fears that held you back for so many years. You no longer want to be loved through perfection. You want to be loved through authenticity. You begin to see clearly. All those years chasing recognition, it was just you trying to touch the feeling of being seen. But now, you see yourself, and that is the greatest step forward. When you return to your true nature, everything changes. You speak less, but every word is real. You fear less, but you feel more. You want less, but you are more at peace. And strangely, when you no longer need anyone to validate you, people begin to see you more clearly. Not because you have become brighter, but because you are no longer covered by layers of defense. You appear in your true form. And that form always has its own gravitational pull. This is the moment when many people begin to tremble slightly. Not because they are weak, but because they can feel something very real rising within them. A calling, an intuition, a part of the soul saying, this is the direction meant for you. And when you can hear that calling, every step afterward becomes clearer, not because you know the whole path, but because you know who is walking it. You, not the ego, not the fear, not the shadow of someone else. Just you, the original, awake and whole version of yourself. If you can feel this, if your heart stirs even slightly while hearing these words, it means you are very close to the doorway of change. You only need to take a little step further, and the journey will open on its own. There are moments in life when you no longer run, no longer try to prove anything, no longer want to hide, nor want to display. You simply stand there, facing yourself, quiet and honest enough that your heart aches just a little. And then you suddenly understand all the battles you once fought, all the roles you once carried, all the times you forced yourself to be strong, were really just a winding journey leading you back to one very small question. Who have I been living for all this time? It turns out the shadow you feared facing the most is the place that holds the strongest part of you. It turns out the thing you tried hardest to avoid is what leads you deepest into your true essence. It turns out awakening does not arrive in bright, glorious light. It arrives in the moment you dare to look into the darkness you have always run from. You know, life does not demand that you be perfect to be loved. It only asks that you be honest to be free. And true freedom does not lie in breaking away from others, but in breaking away from the mask you have worn for far too long. True strength is not the absence of fear, but the ability to look at your fear and say, I will keep walking. Eventually, you will realize all the gazes, all the compliments, all the recognition that once made you live half alive are nothing more than breezes passing through your life. And the only thing that remains, the only thing that never betrays you, is the person you are becoming. And perhaps that is the most beautiful victory, not the victory over others, not the victory over the world, but the victory over the shadow within you, the one that once controlled you through fear, but now stands quietly behind you as a lesson, because once you see yourself clearly, without illusion, without masks, without running, you step out of a game that so many people are still trapped in. And in that moment, you are not only awakened, you become untouchable. If you have made it all the way here, it means a part of you is awakening, a part that is tired of the masks, tired of performing strength, and is beginning to want to touch the real truth of who you are. And I want you to do one thing, just one small thing, but it could change your entire journey ahead. Write one single sentence in the comments below. I master my shadow, not for me to read, not for others to see, but for you to place the very first milestone of your own life, a declaration to yourself that from this moment on, you are no longer running, you are beginning to master. And if what you heard today touched something inside you, some hidden corner you never dared to name, don't leave without leaving your own sign of awakening. Hit subscribe, not to support me, but so you won't miss any lesson on your journey to becoming the strongest, most awake, and most self-governing version of yourself. Because every video that follows will be one more step pulling you out of the invisible cage that the whole world is still trapped in. And if someone suddenly came to mind, someone who is lost, someone being controlled by their own shadow, or someone who just needs a gentle touch to awaken, send them this video. You never know. Sometimes just one message at the right moment can save a person from an entire lifetime of unconsciousness. Finally, before you leave, ask yourself one simple but decisive question. Will I let the darkness control me, or will I learn to control it? Your answer will write the path you walk from today onward.